Good evening and welcome to Know Your Rights. I am your host, Khadija Usher. On our show, you hear directly from attorneys who break down the law and explain the rights of citizens on common legal challenges that confront Belizeans on a daily basis. Tonight, we will depart from our usual format. The recent ruling of the Caribbean Court of Justice has been on the minds of many Belizeans, and there seems to be a lot more questions than answers. Therefore, we are very pleased to have the Attorney General, Honorable Michael Peyrefitte, as our special guest to explain the judgment and answer some of your questions. Good evening and welcome, Attorney General.
Good evening, Khadija. It's good to be back.
Thank you. I am so happy that you're back.
Yeah. We go from marijuana
to now ruling.
Yes, to UHS.
You always go a serious topic.
No, nothing light. Never talk checkers or something like that. You always something really serious. Well, as Attorney General, that's the job I signed up for.
Yeah, and I like that as AG, you really get out there. Honestly, I just have to tell you that.
All right, thanks very much.
And
you have to explain that to people and take that to a certain level.
Oh, wait. I know you have a lot of information to get through, so make we get right into it. The CCJ came out with the recent ruling. Everybody is saying $90 million. Give us the history, first of all, behind this $90 million.
We may need more than 30 minutes, but let me just try my very best to, because I don't want to rush it.
Yes.
But I have to be aware of the time constraint. Listen, I've narrowed it down to about a dozen key points because the recent CCJ judgment was November 22nd, 2017, but that situation that they pronounced on originated from 2003, 2004, right after the PUP won its second term from 1998 to 2008. So they came into power, and around 2003, 2004, the PUP era, the Belize Bank loaned to some doctors about $20 million or so, $20 to $30 million or so that they could open UHS, Universal Health Services.
Yes.
And the first remarkable thing that happened was this. The DFC, like 1 month later, or around very quickly after that, guaranteed that loan. So Belize Bank, private entity, lends to UHS millions of dollars, and the DFC guarantees that loan, which is strange in itself because the DFC gives loans.
Yes.
The DFC doesn't guarantee loans.
Yeah.
And if the DFC is prepared and have so much confidence in UHS to guarantee a loan for them, the question is, why didn't the DFC give the loan straight themselves to UHS? But that's another discussion.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, what happened in about 2004 November? Like about several months after DFC guaranteed this loan, DFC started to get into trouble. Lots of questions surrounding DFC, lots of allegation of corruption, lots of things were going on with DFC. They were starting to go down, and actually there was a liquidation proceeding, like DFC was going to be non-existent anymore.
Correct. I remember
DFC
that
go
period.
in. So if you're Belize Bank and you lent tens of millions of dollars to an entity, guaranteed by DFC, and DFC is going down, what you need if you're Belize Bank is for somebody else to guarantee that loan, to put in, to replace DFC, because already UHS, they're not paying back their loan.
They were already in default.
Already from almost before it started.
Yes.
Because think about it, if you have DFC guaranteeing your loan, what's your incentive to pay it? You have no incentive to pay it. Now, remarkably, on December 9th, 2004, the government of Belize stepped in and said to Belize Bank, don't worry, we will remove DFC from this guarantee and we will now guarantee this loan. Now that is, look, just those two scenarios I've painted so far is just unbelievable and unprecedented. The government of Belize does not guarantee loans made between two private entities. You just don't do that, and especially since the government would not be having any control over the asset that it's guaranteeing. You are guaranteeing a loan from UHS, from Belize Bank to UHS, and you're guaranteeing that if UHS don't pay Belize Bank, you won't pay Belize Bank. But yet you have no control over the hospital, no stake in it, no shares in it, nothing. This at this time is just unbelievable, unprecedented. And another thing I want to add to that before you jump in.
Yeah.
So far, all of that I'm telling you is secret.
At the
The
time,
public
yes.
does not know about this
Yes.
in 2004. We do not know
Yes.
that DFC guaranteed that loan from Belize Bank to UHS. We don't know that.
Yeah.
We don't know that DFC is going out of business and that guarantee is then taken over by the government of Belize.
Yeah.
We don't know that. The public doesn't know that.
Okay.
No.
I have two questions.
Go ahead, please. And I was just saying, if at any time you don't understand where I'm coming from, you stop me.
Yes.
Go
yes.
ahead.
First question, you talk about the government and you said the government, the guarantee. And in the event of UHS defaulting, the
Yes.
government have to pay.
Yes.
But we have to make that very clear that
Yes.
the government's money is actually the people's money.
Of course, the government money is the people's money. Now, at that point, I'll get back to it, but I want to say,
Yes.
the minute you decide as a government that you're going to expose yourself to that amount of money,
Correct.
you should immediately go to Parliament to secure that money in the event you have to pay it.
This is something that
That's
should
a
be made public.
responsible government will
Yeah.
do. Under the UDP, we acquired BTL, but when we acquired BTL, we knew we had to pay for it. We made sure that we secured the money to pay for it in the event of any judgment, because that's the responsible thing to do.
Okay.
The POP did not do that. They did not allocate for the money, and that, like I said, it was secret.
Yes.
No. There's a lot of noise going on at the same time, because that's not the only questionable deal going on at that
Yes,
time.
yes.
You're hearing news that the government is borrowing money at a rapid pace. They're borrowing tens of millions of dollars from the International Bank of Miami, interest rates that are ridiculous. You have this group of people called ACB, and they started a movement, and
This
they
is
started
the
to clamor,
Association of
Concerned
Belizeans.
Belizeans.
Okay.
And they said, listen, they brought some pressure along with the opposition at the time,
Yes.
and forced the government of the day, the PUP government of the day, on April 19, 2005, the Finance and Reform Audit Act is passed, saying that if you borrow $10 million or more, you must first go to the National Assembly. Now remember, this piece of legislation comes on stream to force the government that if you're going to borrow $10 million or more,
Yes.
you have to first go to the National Assembly.
Yes.
Still in 2005, we do not know about this government guarantee. We still don't know about it,
Yes. Yes.
So we are pushing for that Finance and Reform Audit Act because of borrowing. But at the same time, we don't know that government has already guaranteed a loan.
Okay.
Now, next step.
I like how you had the timeline it out for me.
Yes,
Yeah.
March
Yes.
23rd, 2007. UHS, they not the pay. They not the pay, and no, they was not the
They
pay.
still not the pay.
No, this is after the Finance and Reform Audit Act, they not the pay.
Yes.
So what government did was this. They entered into what the Privy Council eventually determined to be a contract. Belize Bank tell the government of Belize, listen to me. UHS not pay, they don't look like they won't ever pay. So we don't want you to have a guarantee anymore because we don't know they don't pay.
Yeah.
We want you to not have to wait until they don't pay for you to pay. We want to eliminate that guarantee. We accept they won't ever pay, and we want you to sign a contract saying that you will pay this money that UHS owes the Belize Bank.
Yes.
So now we gotta know, for you borrow money from the bank, I co-sign your loan.
Yes.
The bank is saying, listen to me, Mike, Khadija will not pay. So I don't want you to be the guarantor anymore. I want you just agree that you just pay me the money and done.
Yes.
So now UHS is out of the system, out of the way. They get away free.
Free. Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's just now between the government
Yeah.
and Belize Bank. Now, in that agreement where government agreed to pay directly to Belize Bank, the first interest payment and was supposed to be paid in April of 2007. The agreement is made March 23rd, 2007. The first interest payment is due in 2007.
Yeah, so the government was to pay by this time, hands down, the bank,
hands
the
down,
government.
they take it over and they say, we don't, government PUP said we don't own no hospital, we don't have no shares in no hospital, but Belize Bank, we agree to just pay you whatever UHS borrowed. I mean, it was, let me tell you something, that is criminal, if not nothing, no other way to put it. But no, this is interesting, because I want to segue now into what the former Prime Minister said on TV the other night, that he was vindicated, and that why didn't Dean Barrow pay the money? Well then, listen, April 2007, the money becomes due that you agreed to take over. But the government did not pay. So now, UHS not pay Belize Bank. Belize Bank then enters into an agreement with the government for the government to pay Belize Bank now, but the government doesn't pay.
Belize Bank. Correct.
I have to suspect that the reason the government didn't pay was because they would have to go to the House to budget for the money, and they were ashamed to admit that they have entered into this thing. Now, even up to this point, Khadija, it is still secret. The public does not know that the government has taken over this loan from UHS. We owe Belize Bank money, but we don't have nothing for show for it. The public does not know that as yet. ACB finds out. ACB is able to get their hands on the agreement, and ACB then...
The agreement between the government and Belize Bank.
Where they decide they're going to pay Belize Bank straight.
On behalf of UHS, yes. Okay.
Now remember now, the 2005 Finance and Reform Audit Act that says if you borrow money above 10 million, you have to go to the National Assembly. This was about 30 million at the time. So now ACB finds this settlement deed where the government has agreed to just straight pay Belize Bank in 2007. So ACB said, no, we're going to sue the government in court because we want the court to say that that settlement agreement, that contract to pay Belize Bank is illegal because of the Finance and Reform Act. Because then you did not go to the House to borrow that money, because ACB was saying the minute UHS gone and government agreed to pay Belize Bank, it is like government essentially was the one who borrowed the money. Because you took a loan that somebody owed a bank, you took the amount over agreed to pay, that is essentially you taking over the loan. The first court said that clearly is a loan. That is not good. The Court of Appeal said that is clearly a loan. That is not good. The Privy Council says it is not a loan. The Privy Council says even though we call it a loan note, essentially the Prime Minister converted that loan that UHS had to detail into a contract and agreed to just simply pay that money to Belize Bank. You cannot classify that as a loan under the Finance and Reform Audit Act, and so therefore the loan note is good as a contract and the government needs to pay it.
So within the capacity of the former Prime Minister, he has the ability to make a contract like that?
Well, you see, in my view, no. Because then you cannot agree to make a contract like that unless you have secured the money. Or if you are going to make a contract like that, you best believe that you have to secure that money. Now, at this point, Syed Musa has the majority in Parliament. He could have gone to Parliament to put the money together and pay. But this is 2007. The public is hot. The public is upset, and the public would have known that had you agreed to do that, we would start to look into the details and say, but come on.
Yeah.
From 2007, we would have said, why did you first have DFC guaranteed? Correct. Why did you then take over the guarantee? And thirdly, why did you convert the guarantee into a straight up IOU, a promissory note?
Yeah.
No, you're with me so far?
Yeah, but I don't want to cut you, AG. Sorry for cut you actually, but I have to cut you. We just have to take a very short commercial break and then we'll be right back.
No, but it's a good break. It's a good break.
Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am Khadija Usher, and our guest tonight is Attorney General Honorable Michael Peyrefitte, and we're discussing what you need to know about the CCJ judgment on the GOB Belize Bank matter. So, AG, we met at the Privy Council. We reached the Privy Council.
Yes. Now, they say that the loan note, even though it's called a loan note, it's a promissory note, and the government has to pay. Said Musa, the uno picking if be for uno prime minister, he and sign an agreement, uno quarrel with him. This loan note is a legitimate contract. Yeah. So then they view that as such. No. That decision was given on October 20th, 2011, when the Privy Council finally, ACB sued May 2nd, 2007, and then May 20th, 2011, the Privy Council said the loan note is good.
Although it named loan note.
Although it named loan note, they said I know a loan, that one promissory note. A term that would harm the Musa for, administration for some time. But let's go back.
Okay.
May 2nd, the ACB sued the government at the time, but on May 9th, ACB sued on May 2nd, 2007. Yes. On May 9th, the bank told the government, listen, we want all the money. We want all the money.
We don't want no pieces no
just
more.
pay
we
it, because the agreement said that we can demand payment of everything if you don't miss even 1 or 2 payments.
Okay.
We want all the money. Of course, government does not pay. So Said Musa is on TV last week saying, why didn't Dean Barr just pay the money, then save us this interest? The question is, why didn't he pay it May 9, 2007, when the demand was made for him to pay? Why didn't he pay it then? That's a question for him. I guess I'm sure they will probably ask him that in Parliament. You go back, May 9th, they made a demand. They didn't get their money. May 31st, 2007, the Belize Bank, after they've made their demand, did not collect the money. May 31st, they instituted arbitration proceedings.
We're going to court now.
No, we're not going to court. We're going to arbitration, because Ashcroft don't like court. You know, like arbitration set up the fee in country. So now, the deal, when government say we want straight pay Belize Bank, in that agreement had a clause that if there's any dispute, we go to arbitration. But remember now, before the demand is made and before the move is taken to arbitration, the ACB sued weeks before that, saying that this loan note no good. Anything that flows from this, no good. So in the meantime, they sued, and before it reached the Privy Council, eventually, you have arbitration proceedings taking place.
Okay.
And for several reasons, those arbitration proceedings were paused. Because at different points in time, Ashcroft thought that Belize Bank would be paid by something, by the Venezuela money, by the Taiwanese money. But every time the money came, and the government tried to pay it, noise was being made.
Yes.
So it prevented the government from trying to find sneaky ways to pay. Correct. What the ACB and the rest of us were saying is like, look, you want to pay the money? Go to the National Assembly. Earmark the money and pay it, and let there be an open debate on this payment.
Air out your dirty laundry.
Air out your dirty laundry so we can know the history, so that I don't have to be telling it in 2017. Tell it in 2007 when you're the Prime Minister. Bring it to pay. So then he doesn't do that. Those arbitration proceedings go on, they go off, and they take a pause for a while. Now, in 2013, the London Court of International Arbitration said, they ruled, surprise, surprise, they ruled that Belize should pay the award. Because it was duly signed by the Prime Minister, it was duly executed by the Prime Minister and the Attorney General at the time. Nobody forced them to pay the award. Okay. Especially since now, remember it is 2013, yes. Especially since now from 2011, the Privy Council said the loan note good, yes. And that it's a promissory note and a contract.
It was legally entered into contract.
So the London Court of International Arbitration said, listen, the Privy Council said the loan note good. Belize you owe this money. So we are going to see then, based on this loan note that the Privy Council says is good, yes. Our arbitration therefore is good. Because if the Privy Council had said that the loan note was not good, then the arbitration no good. The Privy Council said the loan note is good, so our arbitration is good. Let's go back to arbitration, and they rule that Belize owes the money.
Okay.
Now, which brings us now to the current case. The Privy Council says the loan note is legit. The London Court of International Arbitration says that since the loan note is legit from the Privy Council, yes. We are going to then rule, and we rule that, you know what, Belize, you owe Belize Bank that money.
Okay.
They then, on August 2nd, 2013, on August 2nd, 2013, a couple months after LCIA says that we should pay, they try to bring the matter to the courts in Belize to have the Belize courts ratify that arbitration award as a legitimate Belizean judgment.
I got you. I got you.
The first, at the Supreme Court, Justice Griffith basically told the Belize Bank, get away. The loan note, the Privy Council said, in itself was good, yes. But you cannot examine that loan note by itself. That loan note was created out of something the Prime Minister did that he had no authority to do.
Okay.
So how can I tell the government of Belize to pay money based on a loan note that the Prime Minister did not go to the House for budget?
Okay.
I would then be ordering the current Minister of Finance to commit an illegality. That it's against public policy.
Yeah. So we get back to the whole idea of that it was an illegal contract that he went into.
The Privy Council said this agreement by itself, in a vacuum,
legal.
Good.
Good. Valid.
Justice Griffith said you can't look at it in a vacuum. Okay. You have to look at the history of it and how it came about, because then even if the agreement is technically and legally correct, it is against public policy. You do not commit this amount of money, nor do you take steps to pay this amount of money without budgeting for it. It's in the Constitution at Section 114. It's in the Constitution where it says no monies, and if I may very, very, very quickly, because I know it says 114.2 says no money shall be withdrawn from the Consolidated Revenue Fund except to meet expenditure that is charged upon the fund by this Constitution or any other law enacted by the National Assembly, or where the issue of those monies has been authorized by an appropriation law or by a law made in pursuance of Section 116 of the Constitution. No, this now besides the Finance and Audit Reform Act, you know. Yes. That act says if you want to borrow $10 million or more, you must come to the National Assembly. This is saying, even if you're not to borrow no money, even if you're just to enter into a contract, you must budget for that money, or it's not good. So Justice Griffith said, I cannot ask Prime Minister, I cannot instruct Prime Minister Barrow to pay this money, because then he would be paying it without it being budgeted for. They lost, they went to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal pretty much repeated the same thing that Justice Griffith said. Man, come on. This loan note is a joke. We don't care what the Privy Council said. This is a joke. This came out of a situation that was illegal. You could not agree to pay this without budgeting for this money. So it went to the CCJ. And we are here now.
We are here now.
The CCJ said this, and I have to put you, very early they said they do no lot of work, you know. They said that paragraph 6.
We'll just get into it as soon as we come back. We have to take one more short break, then we're going into the CCJ judgment, okay? Welcome back to Know Your Rights. I am Khadija Usher, and our guest tonight is AG, Honorable Michael Peyrefitte. So AG, we were at the CCJ ruling.
Yes. Justice Griffith said that loan note, while though may be technically legal, is just an affront to good sense and sensibility, and so therefore, on the basis of public policy, we can't honor that, and so therefore we will not enforce that award. Okay. And let me stop right there. When we say enforce it, we just mean register it. Okay. They were trying to, when they went before Justice Griffith, to have it be registered as a regular judgment. She rejected it, the Court of Appeal rejected it, and then the CCJ said, no, when it got to them, all these arguments were put before them as to why it would be an affront to public policy to allow that loan note to be allowed as legal and therefore enforcing the award. They said at paragraph 6 of their judgment, which is the first indication that then they punch a spiral, then they wash their hands.
Okay.
The courts below considered several grounds on which the LCIA award ought not to be enforced. Before us, the areas of dispute have narrowed considerably. In English, that means that the only leave it we have to decide. The only issue that remains for decision is whether enforcement of the LCIA award would be contrary to the public policy of Belize. Okay. They said, the Privy Council said the loan note good.
Still yet.
So who are we to say, good? Yes. Since that was your highest court at that time,
they wash their hands.
It good. That. They say good. Yes. We are saying good. Who are we? Okay. And if he good, then how can it be against public policy to pay? If it's legal, then you have to enforce it. On that basis, we enforce it. Or we order for it to be registered. Okay. However, they also made sure they said this at paragraph 36. Now, they have said that that award of $30 million plus interest, $90 million or so, we order that that arbitration award in that amount be entered as a regular Supreme Court judgment in the country of Belize. But that's all that we can do. Okay. They said, it is presumed that judicial orders will always be obeyed by those affected, including the government. But the order for enforcement or registration of a foreign arbitral award does not itself compel payment from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. We are saying that that judgment must be registered in Belize, and we are saying that Belize should pay it. Yes. We cannot say, take this money from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. We can't do that because of the section 114 in the Constitution, which talks about how you take money from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Yes. It is common ground. In other words, everybody knew, except Said Musa at the time, that section 114 of the Constitution requires legislative approval for expenditure which the government promised to pay by validly entering into the loan note.
You have to go to the house for take the people money.
In other words, Said Musa, when you promised to pay that money to Belize Bank, you had to go to the legislature for them to budget for that money. So in other words, what they are trying to say, in my view personally, yes, that judgment must be registered in Belize, but to actually get the money, only Parliament can vote for the money to be available to be paid.
But they tell me something we don't know.
They are telling us.
That is the procedure.
They are telling us, listen.
Yes.
We only could say Belize you should have paid. Yes. However, Belize has its own internal system as to how it goes about paying these types of things. That we can't touch because there's a separation of powers situation. There. Yes. The judiciary cannot tell Parliament what to do. Parliament cannot tell the judiciary what to do. So we are saying Government should pay it. However, for government to pay it, Parliament, who we can't tell what to do, must be the ones to make the money available to the government for the government to pay. In other words then, we are saying Dean Barrow must pay this money. But Dean Barrow can't take it upon himself to pay the money.
Yes.
Because the Constitution says that before Dean Barrow spend or pay that kind of money, Parliament must vote for that money before he pay it. Or else he will in trouble with the Constitution. Right?
Yes, yes.
That is where we are right now.
Yes.
Where the judgment hasn't been officially registered yet because there's a time frame within which an application has to be made. But right now where we are, I have a position, and luckily for me, the Prime Minister, we share the same position as to where we are right now.
Yeah.
However, we still have to wait on the advice of our attorneys abroad, the people who handle the case, and some other people analyzing it for us. And then we still need to discuss the matter with Cabinet. And then from there, we will take a certain course, or we will make a decision as to what the government does from this point forward. I am not at liberty right now to say what my position is,
Yes,
or what the
yes.
Prime Minister's position
Yes.
is. We don't know what Cabinet's position is, although we hear some members of Cabinet pronouncing their own personal
Okay.
as members of the House as to
Okay.
what their intentions are. However, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
We're still trying to analyze where we are fully, and I think very soon, very, very soon, we will come to a position where we will say, this is the current position of the government, and this is what we intend to do.
And as a final wrap-up, AG, it's a very technical topic,
Yeah.
and you have very graciously laid it out for us today. I think if people not understand after you don't talk, they just no one understand. But it's still a very technical topic, and it's still an ongoing topic.
Yes.
We don't see people to rile up their ministers, they say no,
Right.
vote no, all of those
Right.
things. How will you continue to get the message across to our public?
Well, what happens is that I am sure we are in a position now where we haven't taken a decision as to what we're going to do, which direction we're going to move. I'm sure when we do that and get the reaction, then I can come back again to explain what happened from tonight until that day when we complete what we want to complete. But for now, like I said, we're still in analysis mode.
Yeah.
It will take us at least some time, some good time to decide where we want to go, because we want to make sure that we don't act only emotionally. I've said publicly, as a red-blooded Belizean, my position is this. However, as Attorney General, I have a responsibility to advise the Prime Minister properly as to what the law is. He is as good a lawyer as they get, the best I've ever seen. And so we need to put our heads together. We're there, but we want to get the advice of outside counsel who were seized of the matter and some other professionals before we decide on a course of action. But I'm sure once we have reached that point, then the Prime Minister, as the leader of the nation, Minister of Finance and leader in the House, will certainly inform the nation as to what the intention of government is and where we're going.
And you will always be more than welcome to come back and join us anytime. But sadly, we have come to the end of our show for tonight. Thank you, Attorney General, for joining us and providing clarification on the CCJ judgment. Next week, we will be joined by Attorney Lisette Steen, who will explain your rights when buying or selling real property. Tonight's episode of Know Your Rights repeats at 1 p.m. on Sunday on Channel 7, and it will also be available for your viewing on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for watching, and good night.